Today on the Hill Country Artists Podcast, we have the women who made up the Magnificent Seven, who recently concluded a show at the Kerrville Arts Center. Go around the table and everyone tell us who they are.
I'm Elaine Capers.
I'm Nancy Huffman.
Janet Reinwald.
Dawn Weyer.
Deanna Eixman.
Laura Williams.
Janelle Lindley.
Okay, if I could start with you, Nancy, what did being a part of the Magnificent Seven mean to you? And we'll just roll on around the group.
Well, I was really excited about doing this because, for one thing, coming from the background of being a high school art teacher where we had our students do these portfolios of work all on a theme, it gave us or me the chance to do something like that because typically we see things as, from one piece to the next piece to the next piece. But this, I wanted to come up with something that would fill the whole space that all flowed from one theme. So it was just a really exciting way to work for a change.
Well, I was so thrilled to be invited to be part of this group. We all do such a variety of media, and I think I was the only one who does only watercolor. So I thought it was nice to exhibit among really nice oils and pastels and just a nice variety. I enjoyed that.
Dawn?
Well, for me, I was plugged in kind of at the last minute. So it was a wonderful opportunity to put myself out there that I didn't have prior to that. We haven't been in the Hill Country that long. 2 years is all. I moved from Northwest Montana. And so getting to know individuals in the artist community here and putting my work out was an amazing thing to be able to do. And I had met Deanna and, of course, Elaine. I paint with her on Mondays. And the gal that was originally supposed to do it couldn't. And these ladies were gracious enough to say, come on. And so I did. And I get to paint in oils and pastels and share my work.
Deanna?
For me, it was just an honor to be amongst these women with such talent. There's so many talented people here in the Hill Country, but these women are exceptional. And just who they are as a person and the support they give as people. Sorry, I'm going to cry.
You always cry.
It's huge. I know. I'm sorry.
I get it.
You're going to make me cry.
Sorry.
So, Lori, what did being part of this group mean to you?
I think for me, it was some of us aimed for larger pieces, larger works of art, and just working together as a team. It really was a team effort. And we communicated via text and calls and visits. And it was just a lot of fun for me working towards this big goal.
How about you, Janelle?
I knew everybody, I think, in this group and have done things with them. And I just look forward to being with them because we all have a really good time together. I also love the fact that the space was large because I tend to lean towards really large canvases and enjoy that so much. But we also learn from each other. Not only do we have a really good time, but we just learn a lot, I think, from each other. So it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, let me pick up on something you said. And I want everyone, of course, to answer. But could you talk about the medium you utilized and then tie it together with this, what I just wrote down, big goal? What is your medium? And then how did you create something to meet that big goal?
Well, since I paint in watercolor, I'm always in awe of these beautiful oil paintings I see everywhere. And watercolor is kind of at the bottom of the totem pole as far as great works of art. So I thought this would be a great time for me to put up some of my big watercolors and just see how it compared and a showcase for them, really, that I don't normally have.
Dawn?
Oh, goodness. For me, like I said, it was an opportunity to paint big. And having been doing pastels for the last 14 years, it was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge. And just the encouragement to be able to do that has been wonderful. So, I don't know. I love cloudscapes. Ominous was my large piece for the show. And it was just really fun.
Deanna?
Well, my last year had been kind of crazy, so I didn't have as many pieces. And when Elaine had asked me to be a part of it, I just thought, oh Lordy, how am I going to get it all done? And so it was a bit of a pressure type thing for me to get as many pieces done as I needed to. And so I was pulling in. I had a couple snowscapes, which were empty frames hanging on the wall the first day. And they gave me a hard time about that. But I finished up the pieces and got them in there. And I do predominantly acrylic. I think a lot of these ladies do oils. So anyway, it was a challenge. I usually do large pieces anyway, so that wasn't a big deal. I love doing large pieces. But
Lori, how about you?
Well, so normally I'm a plein air painter mostly, which means I go out and paint outdoors in the field. And as Nancy said earlier, we were both high school art teachers together, as a matter of fact, for the last couple of years of our careers. And so I approached it like Nancy, as this was a big AP studio project and I needed a concentration, we called it in school, a thematic version. So I had these grand plans. I drew them out to scale. I drew my wall to scale and thought of, okay, I'll have, a bald cypress piece at Hope Crossing, and had all these really grand plans, which I about 50% completed and filled in the gap with plein air pieces. So, but it was really fun to have that goal.
How about you, Janelle?
It is. I agree with you. Having a goal of certain ones and getting them finished was really fun. I do two things. I do acrylic paint, and I also do what's called paper painting, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, but it gives a little bit more of a mosaic look using pieces of paper. It's very tedious, takes a long time. So I do both. I love doing both, but I have to realize if I'm trying to finish something for a show and it's a paper painting and it's large, it's going to take a long time. But I enjoy having all the words and different things in the painting that show up. It draws people in and they enjoy seeing what the words are and what it says. And I'm also big on color, so that's always a fun challenge of thinking about the bright colors because I love color.
Don, I want to start the next question with you.
Okay.
And
I was just trying to think, there was a lot of fun things just to watch people as they moved around the room and watch them observe the different pieces. And the different styles of art in the room were so amazing. I wished everybody could have experienced being there. One of them, so I do a lot of animals, and I always try to capture their eyes. I want people to stop and look into their eyes and imagine, how that animal's feeling, or maybe that it brings something personal to them. And that happened. I had a couple that came through and they're like, oh, you've got our rabbit. And I thought, what are you talking about? And so there was a small piece with the rabbit on it and a donkey. And anyway, they were just so fascinated that I had their rabbit that they watch every morning in the backyard as they drink coffee. And so anyway, that was always fun.
Lori?
For me, probably the most memorable moment was an artist named Eddie. And I had visited with him previously at other exhibits. He frequents KACC. And so he pulled me aside to one of my pieces, which was a very tall vertical oil painting of Hope Crossing looking up the North Fork. And he wanted all my thoughts on how did you determine this perspective? And because it's a 24-inch by 48-inch painting, so it's quite tall. And he was very intrigued about the sight line and the focal point, and where, he just wanted to hear all about the perspective. So we had quite an in-depth conversation about it, and it meant a lot to me that he had so many questions and was so intrigued and didn't just, pass by. He really got into one piece. So.
There was a couple that came by that, well, first of all, I love talking to everybody that comes by. I probably talk to them more than they know. But anyway, they start asking all these questions about the paper painting process because that's different. And there was a couple that had come by and they really liked the one where I had the 3 crosses. And it's named because he lives. because of the song and everything when I did it. And so they were asking all these questions, but what was so much fun is they were looking at all the little pieces of paper, and I have little things hidden in there, like Bible verses, and they are drawn to that. They are drawn to look at all the different little things that are in there. And they were just fascinated. And so she wants to take a class, and I do classes on that. And so it's always fun to really get to know someone and know that they appreciate what you do and that they want to also learn. So that to me is fun.
Deanna, I'd like to start the next question with you. And what I'd like to focus on this question is the local art scene and the local art community. I've had the opportunity to visit with most of you all on the podcast we started. And that podcast is designed to focus on, not the artists at the Museum of Western Art, but local artists. And what did having a show at the Art Center, the Magnificent Seven, what does that not only say about the local art scene, but what does that do for the local artist?
Wow, for the local artists, I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to show what we do and to be recognized, because so many times we're in our studio creating and nobody knows. So just getting out there and letting people see what our giftings are, because I feel like we all have a deep, deep faith, and the fact that our giftings are there and was given to us to express and to bring light to other people. Like when I work with the women who have been abused and use art as a way of help healing their heart, I think it just brings out the many aspects that art can and does touch lives.
Well, locally, it's just a fabulous venue for
Yes.
getting us out in public. And I have to compliment my comrades here, because we put a lot of work into getting the word out in the community, advertising, the photo ideas, taking the photos, we had so much fun doing that.
Your husband did a great job too, by the way.
We have to tell you a little backstory there. We had hired a professional photographer to take our photo, who had to cancel at the very last minute. And we're texting each other, what do we want to do? And time's running short to get our publicity out. And I said, well, I have a decent camera, and I have a husband who I can teach how to push the shutter.
We're very trained.
This is Elaine. It was so funny taking these photos. We'd all get set up. Laura would get in the position of, okay, now this is how the shot's going to be. And then she would say, Randy, come over here. And he'd squat down and try to be about the size that Laura was. It was going to come out through the lens exactly like she had it.
It was
It was
great.
a team effort, and it was
It
awesome.
was.
Yes, it was.
And it's
It
all
was
based
very
on the
fun.
movie posters too.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was fun too. We were characters.
So yeah, just getting us as local artists more in the public view, which I think we all kind of struggle with as artists.
Yes.
How about from your perspective, Janelle?
It's great having the local facility and having such a wonderful place to do our art show. But it's also great meeting people that come by that maybe didn't know you even did this. They come by, them from some other place or something, and they're like, you did this, or so making the connection with the people that live here, knowing that we're artists and that we have a purpose and we're wonderful, magnificent.
Elaine, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to put a twist on it. As perhaps, if not one of the driving forces, did the show meet expectations, go in a different direction, all of the above, none of the above, or something different from your perspective?
Oh, all of the above. Comments throughout the length of the show, and I docent periodically at the Art Center as well. And the comments that I got were about the color and about the theme and our poster. They loved our poster, but mostly it was, oh my gosh, the color. Everybody's art pieces spoke color, and it was magnificent. They said that this is probably one of the best other than the gourd show and the furniture show, which are staples for the Arts Center. They said this is probably one of the best shows that's ever been there. And so it was just such a pleasure to be a part. And I paint much smaller than everybody else. So I had the same amount of space, but I had to put a whole lot more paintings in just because my work is smaller. But the interest from the people that came, and I had so many ladies say, "Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you pick me to be in the show?" Well, maybe next time.
How about from your perspective, Nancy?
It was just great to be able to do it. I mean, just the fact that everybody came around, and it's kind of a validation of what we do. Like Deanna said earlier, we sit at home alone a lot of times painting, and you get so inside your own head all the time, and you're second guessing yourself all the time. And it's so nice because we see each other's work too. So we think, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, because you're always looking the next step up. So when you're able to do a show like that and people come around and, just talk to you about your work and what your reasoning behind your work is, and how you do this, how you do that. It's really, it is very validating to us. It makes you realize that, okay, I'm doing this for a reason.
What impressed me most was to have people come in that you've never seen before, and they come and look at your work and say, "Oh, I know exactly where this landscape is." I know, I live around down that river there, and I'm thinking, whatever you want to think. That's exactly where it is. But it's so nice to think that, it's all universal. People are drawn to your work because it becomes personal to them, and you feel like you're doing a good job with that.
One of the reasons that we moved to the Hill Country 2 years ago was for this purpose, that I would be able to put myself out there. And because a lot of communities don't have cultural centers like we have here. This is very unique. And it's just wonderful. Even back home, the museums were the ones that put the artists out there, or the galleries, but to be working towards a goal, to become a better artist, a better individual in the art world, there's just not that type of facility. And I am so grateful for Kerr Art and Cultural Center and HCAF and even the theater venues that are here. The opportunities are wonderful.
Yeah, I think we also would like to say thank you to Lonza, who runs the Cultural Arts Center, and to Brian, who hung our show.
Oh,
he was amazing and
wonderful.
just precious. So thank you guys.
Yes.
So I'm going to end back with you, Elaine, on a question about 2020. But before we get there, what I want to have everyone comment on is, like, I've had the opportunity to meet most of you all, and I know a little bit about your journey. But the thing that struck me about one of the powers of the show is that by putting yourself out there, by putting your work out there, you're communicating to someone else. Take a chance. Whatever you love, whatever your passion is, do it. It doesn't have to be art. It can be writing. It could be whatever it is, but go with it, do it, put it out for the public, and see how if they respond in a way you respond, or they have a different response. It's a long-winded way of saying I found it to be very powerful to encourage others. And I wanted to ask you all if you thought a show like this communicates from a 6-year-old boy or girl to a 66-year-old man or woman, that you too can do this. And so I want to maybe start with you, Janelle, and ask, did you get a sense of that, or do you feel like any of that happened?
That the younger ones as well as the older ones. I totally do. Of course, I was an art teacher like several of them. I did elementary art, and I'm used to working with children. And I love teaching them the process and the painting and all of that. So I do think that the kids have an opportunity, teenagers have an opportunity, everybody's at a different level, but everybody wants to express themselves. So I start with my grandchildren and they all are used to doing all of this. But no, I think it's something that I like to tell people anybody can do. Now, it's not going to look the same. We all are different.
Right.
But I think everybody can express themselves one way or another. It may not look the same, but I am a firm believer in, especially the children all feeling comfortable expressing themselves.
And actually, we're going to go back the other way now. So, all right.
Swimming upstream.
Go ahead.
So I would say I had several artists. One of the things about Kerr Arts and Cultural Center is it's a great local venue for artists to gather who are at all levels of development as an artist. And so during this show in particular, I had several artists from KACC and the art club and who came up and, like Eddie, who asked a very particular question about the process. And then several people, wanted to talk about plein air. How do you do this? And and in fact, we met some new artists there who Nancy and I have agreed to take plein air painting. And we talked about the only way to really, if you don't feel like you're any good, the best way to combat that is to just do it. You just have to go and do and struggle. And everybody struggles. I struggle. It's a hard. Art is hard, as I once said in high school art class. But as long as you just keep at it and keep practicing, I really think it's attainable for whoever wants to express themselves visually. So,
Well, you're going to get me preaching now. One of the things that I truly believe and I stand on is in the beginning, God created. And if he created us, if you're a believer, then you know that you have creativity in you and you were born with it in you. Now, what happens to it and if you develop it is totally up to you. And as you grow, your mom, your dad, your teachers, is it nurtured? Yes, art is hard, but yet it's not. It's just do it. Just get out of your own head and just do it. It's only as hard as you let your brain think it is, but it's not. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do. So,
in the process of doing art, there's always that voice that beats you up. And that's one of the things that has been good for me to work at overcoming as I have had this group and other people that I paint with. And there you go, Deanna, same thing. I think that's that sensitivity coming through because I've done art. I've drawn since I was a little girl. I grew up in a very artistic family. My father, did danced all over the world because he hasn't had an agent, because he, all of us sang. I did theater for a number of years, but I had a teacher in high school that didn't encourage, didn't follow through. I kind of got lost in the mix. And so I put it away. And it was an illness in 2009 that made me turn around and go, I need to do something creative. And my mom, who is an artist, she does both pastels and watercolor, handed me a box of pastels and I've never looked back. So but the overcoming thing for me has been just not beating myself up, because here I am in my 60s going, oh, is it too late? And I think that was the essence of your question. It's not too late.
Right.
It's not. Never, ever believe that.
Janet?
I know I am always learning. I'm always studying other watercolorists and their styles and just trying to improve myself. And when people look at some of my finished art, they say, well, how did you do that? And I say, you start at the beginning and you just work your way up. It takes a lot of practice and you never stop learning.
Mhm.
You just, and
You're always learning.
it's so exciting too, to help someone in their learning. And then when you learn something new, it's exciting too.
Well, the way I look at it, yes, it's a struggle, but it is attainable. But it's also, I think I have to look at it like it's a journey. You know, sometimes that journey's great and it's easygoing, and sometimes it's treacherous and you fall down and you do things like that. But I think we all have to have that passion that keeps us moving forward throughout our lives, no matter what type of creativity because creativity can be in all sorts of things. An engineer can be creative. It's not just artists and musicians that are creative. It's whatever you do in your life, but you have to move forward and you have to find passions as you move through life to keep you going. You know, I just think back like, okay, my parents are elderly now. My dad's 94, my mom's 88. And they have continued with their passions throughout their life, even though it's not artistic passions like my passions. They're big in history, and they started a museum in their community and just things like that. So you always have to push yourself towards your passions, whatever it is, whatever path you're on in life.
Elaine?
Our show, I spent a lot of time at the Art Center just talking with the people that would come in, not just at the reception, but day by day, and just listening. I just kind of stalked people and listened to what they had to say. And a little girl, she looked like she was maybe 6 or 8 years old, came in with her mother, and they were looking at everything. And of course, they loved Deanna's giraffe. That was a big hit. But they got to Nancy's display. And Nancy did a lot of water, and her water had such amazing movement in it. And I heard the little girl say to her mom, "Look, Mom, look at that one. I could just put my toes in it." And the church services are held at the Art Center on Sunday just for the space. And a fella came up to me and said, "Do you know any of these artists?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, that buffalo just takes my breath away." And it was Deanna's. And it just gave me such pleasure to hear people talk about what in each section caught their eye and what meant something. And everybody had art that spoke to someone. And that just filled my heart to hear that.
Elaine, I'd like to end by asking you've mentioned already, but I want to reiterate the question or re-ask the question. Will the Magnificent Seven ride again? When will they ride again? And anything you learned from this experience that you're going to expand upon or hope to expand upon in 2024?
Absolutely. The Magnificent Seven will ride again. We've even talked about our next photo shoot on horses. His suggestion has been stick horses, but I don't know how that's going to go. But yes, we will ride again September the 12th through October the 12th. And we will have our artist reception on September 14th. And we hope to have as many, if not more, people come out and see what we have new. We all work so hard to show new and different things every time we show anywhere. We try not to have, I saw that last year. We try to do something new and exciting and different every time. So we invite everybody to come and see what the Magnificent Seven will do in the fall.
Well, I wanted to thank you all for coming down. I really enjoyed the exhibit. I can't wait till 2024 to see what you all come up with.
Right.
Okay. This is Tom Fox again. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Hill Country Artists Podcast. This will be our final podcast for 2023, but I hope you'll join us again in 2024, where we continue to feature local Hill Country artists. If you're an artist and would like to be on the podcast, please give me a shout at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. The Hill Country Artist Podcast is a production of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network.